Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Mysteries and Oddities news video. Well, I thought I would mix this video in now that it's been over a year since the Legends of the Lost with Megan Fox show ended around December or so of 2018. Those of you that had followed my YouTube channel for a while know that ever since I heard the news of this new series coming out and then starring my favorite, Megan Fox, on there, you just knew I just had to cover it throughout the entire period. And so I did. I was able to track it for almost a year and a half or so, ever since it first started when it came to the news for its debut. And then eventually I gave my review once it came out, and then I gave my final thoughts after it seemed like it was no longer going to be renewed. Well, all that time period, now that it's been one full year afterward, I thought I would get my thoughts here again, see if there's been any updates, and then I'll share all that info with you here. I'm doing this as well because a lot of those other videos got a good number of views, and I'll include some of the links for them below here. So it's obvious that there were a lot of fans associated with this series as well. So let's go ahead and let's talk about that here. Legends of the Lost with Megan Fox 1 year later, and then I'll give all the updates that I can associated with this. So yes, indeed, this was a show that I started tracking early in 2018. There may have been some news from it before, and I can't quite remember the exact dates. But still, once I heard that Megan Fox, who is a huge favorite of mine, she's basically been a fan of hers, my movie girlfriend, since the Transformer days, and I've been a huge fan ever since. And of course, seeing her later on in a Ninja Turtles movies only added to that as well. But when I heard that she was going to do this show, something involving very fascinating scientific topics, stuff involving like women Vikings, and then of course visiting Stonehenge, and then visiting some kind of haunted forest, and then other goodies that were out there. When I heard all of this info, it just definitely added to my attraction to this show. And so I love being able to share all that info here. And then when it came to the show debuting, I was able to showcase as much as I could as far as the reviews, what people were stating, eventually the ratings to it as well. Unfortunately though, the ratings didn't do so well. I tried to see if I could find that info one more time, but it's lost out there now that it's been over a year. But yeah, it just didn't do so well, so hot in terms of the initial episode, and then it just went downhill from there. So as far as the show being renewed or canceled, at the time, a year ago, I had stated that so far it was canceled, and I'll give an update on that here. But first, I wanted to also give one more set of thoughts as far as the positives and as far as the negatives towards the show. Well, again, now that it's been a full year, I thought I would give a refresher to it, give my new thoughts on it, and then see if everyone else agrees with this too. First off, the big positives of the show, the stuff that I remember that worked really well. Number one, the money was there. The episodes, even though there was only 4 of them in total, they definitely spent some good money within each episode. You could totally tell as far as the recreations, the dramatizations as well, the costumes, the budgets that was there, the fancy equipment that I saw as well, the trips that they would take to multiple locations. Instead of talking about the locations, they were actually there. That takes money, especially when you're dealing with some locations that have very special access to them. And so the money, as even the fancy graphics that would come across the show, it was absolutely there. For a first time show, especially having a set of subject matters that may not be home runs when it comes to ratings. Whoever was producing this, at least definitely, and I think Megan was a big part of it too, they definitely spent the good budget there. So I'm glad that they were able to make it that way and not have it seem at least so amateurish. Another thing that really stood out on every episode that I watched was Megan definitely loved it. She seemed to be all in when it came to each episode, her passion towards it. She cared about each topic. It really seemed like she was really absolutely into it. And you can kind of tell when someone is there just winging it, just basically there for the paycheck. Not in her case. She absolutely seemed like she was doing this for fun. And it just happened to be a set of TV episodes afterward. So it was a delight to see her do something like this. She's always mentioned in episodes and interviews that she's had that. She's a huge fan when it comes to this stuff, Ancient Aliens being her favorite show of all time. So her having this, her own show, dealing with that same sort of pseudoscience, which we'll talk about more here in a minute on the negative side, then that definitely stood out. So kudos to her on that part. And then also other highlights that stood out when it came to the series. I love the idea of them having so much private access to various sites that normally would be very, very hard to get into. Like I remember seeing that Stonehenge episode where she was there by herself with one of the other people there. Now, it could have been that they were there in the early, early morning. Someone let me know, like, is Stonehenge open 24 hours, something like that? Or is it restricted only during certain hours? Either way, though, you don't see the usual, let's say, huge mass of people that photos from tourists showcase. Here in this case, it was just herself and then some of the people, some of the scientists that she brought on board too. So that was really cool to see. And then there was that museum that featured that very large Viking ship as well. That was also something involving private access. So really cool stuff like that. If I'm not going to be able to go to those locations myself, at least seeing it on such an intimate level really stood out. And then by far, at least to me, out of all the 4 episodes, the biggest highlight was that one part where she went to that forest, the one that involved something like in terms of magic. Like there was rumors of magic happening in that forest from who knows how far back, maybe even haunted stuff. And she spent the entire night there by herself in that forest. And then there was that nighttime shots, that nighttime camera that she kept herself, as far as showcasing like clips from her thoughts while she was there. I love that stuff. So I wish it could have been more of something along those lines for the rest of the episodes, but that was huge. That was the big highlight for me too. Now, as far as the negatives for the show, the stuff that stood out for me was this. Unfortunately, after seeing 4 episodes of it, and I saw a lot of these in Vegas, when I was in a hotel room, it was a great time to catch up on those all at once and then see them back to back to back rather than having to wait, let's say, several weeks at a time. Ultimately, and unfortunately, a lot of this stuff was boring. It was episodes that definitely could have been 30 minutes each as opposed to an hour. And that's because there was a lot of filler material that was very repetitive within them. And if it was going to be the case, if it was going to be at least an hour, the other thing I mentioned in the past video was why not instead make it multiple subjects? Instead of just having one single subject over the entire hour, split them. Have something for 30 minutes on one subject, have 30 minutes on the other one, keep it fresh. And then that way, if they absolutely insisted on that hour mark, then at least it'll keep people coming back each episode break. I remember there were certain points where I was thinking, if this is going to continue to drag, then this is going to be bad when it comes to these episodes. And yeah, I felt that way, and I think others did as well in some of the reviews. So that was probably the biggest negative with the actual episodes. They were ultimately boring, which is the kiss of death when it comes to TV ratings. Another thing that I just mentioned a minute ago was the pseudoscience. Now, I'm totally fine with pseudoscience, stuff involving the idea of theories and then having science match those theories instead of the other way around. A lot of people, though, are turned off by it, like Ancient Aliens, like I mentioned also a minute ago. That's her favorite show. That's a hugely popular show as well with others. But to others, that's a huge turnoff because stuff involving, like, let's say, ancient astronauts, when it's just people talking, but hardly any proof, but maybe there might be some theories linked here and there. That's the kind of stuff that people immediately have a wall against. And so having so many of these episodes lead with the pseudoscience as far as the Legends of the Lost, and then having them end with the pseudoscience as well, that seemed to be another point where I thought once people saw it, especially from the very beginning of the first episode, they were turned off. Like they didn't come back for the rest of the episodes. And that seemed to show too. You can kind of get away with some of it as far as proof. Like obviously Ghost Adventures, their whole thing hinges on visiting ghostly sites, haunted sites. They may have proof, they may not have proof on there. And even then the proof that they show may still be hotly contested, but you can get around it because at least that subject matter allows it. But when it comes to science and the idea that there's these loose theories and facts that you tend to have things try to match and link to them, that's pseudoscience, and then that's where it kind of turned off a lot of people. So unfortunately, yeah, the boring factor along with that huge stretch, it seemed to be where people just didn't come back. And then the shows and the ratings, each episode afterward showcased that too. Now, as far as any updates on the show, I tried to find as much as I could. Unfortunately, it's still the same as one single year ago. Those same websites I looked at that stated it's not renewed or pending are the same. They're stating the exact same thing. The status of it is the show hasn't been renewed and the show is still on a pending status. status. That doesn't mean that it hasn't been exactly canceled, because the good news is at least the Travel Channel hasn't shunned this show into oblivion. You know how sometimes when you have certain shows that just, for lack of a better term, outright just bomb, then when that happens, the shows, the TV channels just forget about them completely. Like, they don't even make them available for sale afterward. No, in this case, you can find Megan Fox's show everywhere. It'll be on Amazon, iTunes, on the website for the Travel Channel. I think I saw it also on YouTube, where you could purchase them there too. So they're everywhere to see. So that's some good news. It makes it seem like Travel Channel is still there, still keeping the show along, but who knows as to where it's truly going to be renewed. But that's the pending status associated with it. If it has any life whatsoever, it's this. There may be a chance that it could find another streaming service to pick it up afterward. Like, who knows? Maybe something on the lines of a Hulu, or maybe something like Netflix. All it takes is someone else to believe in a show like this and the capabilities of it. Maybe not even involving 100% TV ratings, but more on the lines of streaming channel ratings. Then that's where it has a second chance. Also, Megan hasn't really talked about this show either afterward. Like, she hasn't posted anything on her Instagram, which I follow, which is, I think, the only thing that she actually posts on the social side. Like, she doesn't have any other Facebook, Twitter stuff. But yeah, it's the only one she's talked about other projects, but this is the only one that she hasn't mentioned any updates on there too. It'd be great if she had an opportunity for a Q&A or something else where she answers mail messages leading to it, but she hasn't mentioned anything either. So no real hope yet, but again, no definitive conclusion. But it doesn't look good now that it's been a year later and there hasn't been any further updates. It's in the world of TV, having it be that long without any new season announced. That's not good. So I don't think there's going to be something happening in the near future. I hope I'm wrong, because I love Megan Fox. I love everything that she does as far as her work, her career as well, and then this particular passion on this show. But we shall see. We'll see what happens in another year or so. But that's it. That's pretty much 1 year later, this update associated with Legends of the Lost with Megan Fox. So let me know what you guys and gals think. Post your comments below. Did you have a chance to see the show? What did you think? Was it good? Was it bad? Was it something you want back? Is it okay that it's gone? Please post those comments below. So, all right, everyone. Thanks again as always. Take care. Bye.